We're rolling.
So in a nutshell, yeah, that's how you escape Mexico with nothing but half of a donkey and a sombrero. Welcome to Film Nerds Hour.
And this is with your host, Noah Sweeto.
Nathaniel Shoemaker.
And Hannah Hendricks.
And we're here to tell you guys just a little bit about, anything film related.
More or less, yeah. Film scripts, film production, films.
Pretty much anything will be real that you can think of. We'll be bringing you all the way back from movies that are well known and then some aren't, such as Robocop, Slumber Party Massacre, etc., stuff like that, all the way up to the big names now, like The Shining, Doctor Sleep, Birds of Prey, stuff like that.
Yeah. As far as like broadness, I feel like at a point, depending on how long we do this for, we could go anywhere from the film Where the Train Comes at the Movie to a film that just came out in theaters last week.
So we'll be bringing reviews to you from all angles of the cinematic universe that is the film genre. So
yeah.
I think a little bit to start off with today. We kind of were discussing Robocop from the originals and the remake, mostly the originals, which I recently did a rewatch.
I did as well.
And I don't know if I told you, I went to Half Price Books the other day, and I found...
They're not paying for an advertisement, we're just talking about them.
No, yes.
If they want to sponsor us, we would enjoy that.
That would be quite fun. Free movies for everybody.
Yeah, free bucks. Go on.
But they had the collective edition, or the collateral edition, I don't remember.
Is this the version where it's blue, and then it like flips open like this?
I think it has the original director's X-rated cut with all the uncut scenes. So
yes. So I know the edition you're talking about, and that's the edition I watched on. And I have a fun story in regards to that edition, more specifically how I got it. So the first time I had a heart surgery, this was way back when I was like 18, which I guess is not way back, I guess. But I was at the Children's Hospital, down here in Minnesota. And I was staying there, and they had like a thing where you can rent, because each room has like an Xbox, so you can rent video games from this little place or movies. And the guy who runs the place comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, so I heard you were one of our like older patients. We have this collection of movies that we're pretty sure we're not allowed to even rent out to kids, so I don't know why we have it. Do you want to just have this?" And he gave me the Robocop Trilogy.
So that was pretty awesome.
It was one of the greatest experiences ever.
See, I never got to see the X-rated cut. Only up until, I think, like 2 weeks ago, I got the rest of the Robocops.
It's better. There's not much changes, but it's, if you're looking for more of a gore factor, and just,
And I think that's what made Robocop so good. And I watched some of the clips online. I know that first death scene where they're doing the robot tests. It was definitely more substantial X rating. My thing though, when it comes to that too, though, is would that still modern day hold up as an X rating? Because when you look at movies today, the gore factor and the violence factor is so much more. But at the same time, I feel like stuff like RoboCop has a sense of more realisticness because all those effects are so practical.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't. Because there's been movies that I've seen. Like, have you ever seen Bone Tomahawk?
I've seen bits and clips, and I know that's...
Yeah. If that doesn't get an X rating, I don't know what governs one.
And I guess, well, definitely the one that did get an X rating that I thought was the Green Inferno.
Yeah, actually.
I can't believe how morbidly effed up that whole movie experience was, and I don't think I've ever cringed at a movie as much. Mm-hmm. Except for Evil Dead. Evil Dead was the only other one that I...
The newer one or the remakes?
The Evil Dead. The original
Sam Raimi.
And that's the first movie that I think I've ever seen that actually made me cringe.
Yeah, it's a cringy one.
And it's cringe in a good way, because the claymation is like, I've never seen claymation done so well, and you'd think for such a small budget, like all these 80s movies like Robocop and Evil Dead that have like, you can't really tell how big of a budget they have until like it seems like the 90s. It seems like everything in the 80s you couldn't really tell. Like late 70s, early 80s, you really couldn't tell what a budget was unless they were trying to strive in something like sci-fi. But even then, you could still find something that was still reminiscent of sci-fi.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. There's Claymation in Robocop, right? With Ed 209?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Claymation? Yeah.
There's a couple of Claymation stuff in Robocop, I believe, and I know a lot of them is like light CGI.
Yeah.
But
especially Robocop 2.
Yeah, but those are all terrifying. Like I think the most terrifying thing of Robocop 2 is Robocane, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
And it's not just the growling. It's like the idea that the one thing that makes me freaked out more than anything, like in horror games and stuff, is when you're looking at something that's really big, but it's not a colossal size. It's just bulky and big. You're in a dark room and it's looking for you, because the whole thing is, you know that if it's colossal, it's gonna step on you and crush you and rip you to pieces. But when it's something like that that's just big and bulky, you're like, what is it going to do? Because there's so many different things it can do, because it's just slightly that much bigger than you.
Gives you a little bit of an alien vibe. Have you seen any of the Robocops?
I have not.
Okay. All right.
Because, I mean, I feel like Robocop is like one of those movies that nobody thinks about anymore, and like the two were working. I know that there's a lot of people, and I know the story of how Robocop came to be. I know that the two directors, they collabed on two totally different ideas, and their stories were similar. I don't remember the exact story, but I know that those two came together and then ended up merging their ideas together because no studio would take their previous ideas.
Yeah.
And then that's how Robocop was born. And it was a really, really awesome concept. I like the idea that they also set it in Detroit, and it was like this war-torn thing. But another thing I think that made Robocop so good is the fact that Alex Murphy really never gets a happy ending.
Yeah. Well, one thing I want to preface real quick before we go any further. If you're listening to this, we are going to 180% spoil the Robocop franchise in its entirety right about now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I'll say real quick right off the bat, there are some places I found on the internet that you can actually watch these movies. So, if you don't want to be spoiled, because I do say these are movies that you should see, especially definitely the first one, if anything.
Definitely the first and second.
Yeah. Third, we'll talk about it, but
yeah.
Oh boy. But if you want to see the first or the second one, it's available for rent. I'm looking on here on YouTube, Google Play, Amazon Prime, Vudu, iTunes. If you have HBO, you can watch it for free on there. So if you want, pause this, watch the movies, and come back. Or if you don't care about us spoiling a movie from 1987, just listen to us talk about it for a little bit.
And there's your fair warning, ladies and gentlemen. So can't say we didn't warn you now.
Yes. Oh, they'll still get mad. It's the internet.
This is very true.
Yes.
But with Alex Murphy, he never really gets that happy ending, which I think makes it much better.
Yeah.
Because it as you watch the movies, each movie sets the standard, like the stake of, he wants to become more human again, but he really can't become that same person. Even though it's kind of like an Inspector Gadget type, scenario.
It's Inspector Gadget if it wasn't as happy.
Yeah, essentially. If it wasn't as lighthearted and go Gadget instead of go Gadget toothpaste, it's go Gadget. Let's take a gun out of my leg and just shoot everybody and have a gore fest.
Go Gadget, shoot through a woman's skirt at a guy's crotch.
Pretty much, which is a legit scene, by the way, in that movie.
It's spectacular.
Yeah, that first RoboCop is just beautifully done, and I think a lot of the reason those movies are so well done is because it was a time, like the 80s, it seems like, for sci-fi. And somebody who didn't grow up in the 80s, I look at all these 80s movies, I'm like, I've never really seen a bad 80s movie. Because it seems like that was the peak where everybody was like, okay, we have the special effects, the practical effects. Let's just go all out and do some crazy shit that people don't think of visually and story-wise. But I think a lot of them are so ambitious that a lot of people also weren't ready for them.
Yeah, because I feel like 80s, that was the time of film right before they got to the mindset of, well, the story doesn't have to make sense. If we make it look cool enough, it doesn't have to have a plot.
And and I think that's where Hollywood really went wrong with a lot of movies.
Unfortunately.
It's that golden age that people were coming up with all these ideas. Hollywood was making so much money with, the revolutionary special effects now. We have some technology and computers that we can work with. And they've been coasting all the way up till now where they're like, let's just remake everything. Like the
Yeah.
remake of RoboCop.
It's better than 3. It's better than 3.
It is better than the third one. And that's another thing too. And is that the third RoboCop was rated PG-13.
Yeah.
And the remake was PG-13. What I've never understood about those classic movies, is even like Mad Max, is why they take an R-rated series and they try to dumb it down. And what I think it is I really think it was Hollywood just saying, like, let's try to sell more tickets.
Yes.
But the problem is you can't really do that with a franchise. That one letter rating change, it can either grant a blessing to a movie in some cases, or it can completely screw the entire franchise.
And I feel like their mindset behind making 3 PG-13 as opposed to R is they realize that, hey, this doesn't have to be a movie. It could be a marketing tool, because if we sell action figures, we're going to make a lot more in the long run. And I am not a fan of that kind of storytelling.
And I think they thought that they could branch out with the story, too, which there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, like, when you look at the Scream franchise, you know, and that might be a bad example because the series didn't do so well. But, let's say we do something like Evil Dead. Like, the Evil Dead franchise, Ash vs. Evil Dead, I don't care what anybody says, I enjoyed it. I watched all those first, which...
It's a great show.
You know, everybody will be like, well, why didn't you watch the originals? I didn't have the original 3, but I still have yet to watch 2. But, you know, the series of that was great. And because I watched that with such high regard, I wanted to go see the original films. And I enjoyed those so much as I did the show. So, you know, a lot of those, you know, they got toned down a bit, I'm sure. Because they became more lighthearted comedy.
Yeah. They lean more to the comedy side than the horror.
But, I mean, it never made it any less scary. There are still a couple bits in Ash vs. Evil Dead where you're kind of like, oh, that's...
Yeah, it's a little disturbing. That makes me upset. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I think it was the big tiger in Season 3. There was, like, a tiger mascot.
Yeah. That's not really a spoiler. That was in trailers.
No, that was in trailers, so nothing major spoiler for the Evil Dead. But be warned that if it does slip up, you've been warned. So
Our bad.
But no, I feel like movies like Evil Dead and stuff like that, they can be a success, but a lot of the problem with modern day Hollywood is that they've just sucked the creativity and turned everything into a marketing ploy. Like, Deadpool and Logan, you know, show that doesn't matter what rating you have. And from, like, a very young age with something like the X-Men, when my dad first showed me, I think I was 6, when I finally saw the first X-Men movie with my dad, is that I knew right away at 6 years old that Wolverine was never a PG-13 character. A person who could literally shoot literal knives out of his hands, smokes a cigar like every other scene, and just looks like a total badass was never a PG-13 character.
No.
There's so much more potential. And I think that was like the biggest thing was the knives. It was just him having those adamantium claws and being able to stab people.
Yeah.
And having a healing factor that made me right away like, this can't be like this kind of movie because he could do so much more with those claws.
Yeah.
And, you know, then we look at something like X-Men Origins, which we don't talk about X-Men Origins.
I saw X-Men Origins for the first time 2 weeks before it came out, because there was this thing called pirated movies that you could get on little DVDs if you knew the right place and the right things to say to the right people. And I got a version of X-Men Origins that is not complete. There is CGI that is undone. There is strings you could see. And if anything, that enhanced the experience.
Because X-Men Origins... Well, my favorite thing, too, is that, like, how Fox is the Sony of the X-Men movies. But my favorite part about X-Men Origins is that they decided to put Origins right on the front of it and assume that it was going to do well.
Yeah, well, they did X-Men Origins ... Wolverine. I feel like at a certain level they were trying to start an X-Men Origins franchise, because they were planning on doing an X-Men Origins Magneto. They were going to do an X-Men Origins Deadpool, but then they realized that it tanked so bad they just gave up on it on the entirety, which I would have watched an origin about Magneto story because he has a compelling origin story if it's written right.
And it is, and I mean, a lot of the problem too, though, is what they would have done is I feel like they would have done what they did with Michael Fassbender, where each generation and decade he still looks like he's 40 years old, even though he should have been played by McKellen. By like Apocalypse and everything.
Yeah, or
in the 40s.
At very least, an age down McKellen.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. But I mean, like, the concept was interesting. I mean, seeing the first part of Wolverine, you know, and seeing him and Victor fight through all those wars was completely awesome.
That was the coolest part of that movie. I love that about that movie. What I didn't like is everything else.
Like, that was literally the only good thing I can say. And I was somebody who supported the X-Men movies a lot. Right up until I realized just how bad. I watched Screen Rant's Pitch Room.
Shout out to Screen Rant.
Yeah, Screen Rant. If you haven't seen that, go watch them. Their pitch meetings. They make absolute fun of every movie, good or bad. Very, very good series. But, you know, it wasn't really until I looked at that and listened to all the flaws, not watching the actual movie, that I was like, oh my god. Mm-hmm. There are some huge plot holes and detail things that are just like right out of left field that was just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You know, and I think, like, the other thing, too, is, like, a lot of people were excited to see a Wolverine story because Hugh Jackman is Wolverine.
It's iconic.
Yeah, and I don't see anybody, like, even in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, somebody else portraying him, because that'd be like trading somebody to play Deadpool. Yeah. Like, I don't see anybody else but Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool, because they're both perfect fits, perfect casting choices. Like, you would never want to see another person try to portray Iron Man other than Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Because he's so good, because in a sense, it is him. His journey with those movies is a reflection of his journey from his life, from when he got that role all the way up until Endgame. Where you know, spoiler for the MCU, that, you know, he goes from, you know, this greedy prick of a playboy to this sacrificial type hero that's willing to do anything to better the universe and the happiness of others beyond himself.
Yeah.
And, you know, so stuff like that. So I feel like, you know, when you get somebody like Hugh Jackman, and everybody was excited to see this X-Men Origins and be like, ooh, we finally get to see, like, this gritty Hugh Jackman movie, you know, they did not deliver. It was PG-13, which is like, okay, it was pretty dark for PG-13 movies. But the whole cameo of Cyclops and everything, and how they tried to rule it in, like, nobody in the original X-Men trilogy realized who Wolverine was, even though he played a key role in saving all of their lives from William Stryker.
Yeah.
And, you know, Professor X is like the only one who seemed to remember him. So did Charles just wipe everybody's minds?
My right away for that is that being in that facility is such a traumatic experience for everybody that it's blocked out of their minds entirely.
I mean, it makes sense, too. Yeah. But there's nothing that could make us forget that shit-tastrophe that was called Deadpool. I don't know what Fox
Deadpool and X-Men Origins Wolverine. The Deadpool movies are great. The character Deadpool and X-Men Origins,
which we'll just call Weapon 11 because it's not even worthy of the name Deadpool. I don't know what Fox was thinking or why they were like, you know, like, oh, people would love this instead of an actual Deadpool movie. Yeah. But my favorite part, I think, was the fact that if you watch all the way to the end credits, there's that post-credit scene of Weapon 11's body using his hand to crawl across all the rubble and touch the head. And then its mouth has been ripped open so it can go shh. Mm-hmm. So they were teasing a movie for that, and it was like, but what made you think that people wanted to see that?
Yeah.
Like, if it was, like, a different version. I mean, and that's the best part about Deadpool 2, was seeing that end credit where Ryan Reynolds goes back and
shoots himself.
Shoots himself for taking the Green Lantern role and shooting the Deadpool Origins version of Deadpool dead 50 times, just unloading a whole clip into it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. While I do agree with everything you have said so far, I feel like it's my duty to say, so Robocop. Because we went on a bit of a tangent there. I think we started at 80s movies and we somehow ended up at Deadpool.
Yes, there's that.
So RoboCop, I want to talk about the pacing for a bit. Because you might agree with me, the first movie, it doesn't feel like the pacing is off, at least in practice. But I would be amiss if I wasn't to point out that we meet Murphy 10 minutes after he's getting shot to pieces. And then 10 minutes after that, RoboCop is on his first patrol. So I'm not aware of how much time is passing, personally.
Yeah, there was, they should have added a bit more into the filler, and that was kind of a mistake. I would have liked to see more Alex Murphy, because...
Just being him, yeah.
Yeah, because it felt like even before, like, you know, when you see him as RoboCop, it seemed like a lot of people knew him on the force.
Yeah, yeah.
And I really wish that they would have dove a little more in depth with that. Like, why is he such a high-regarded police officer hero?
Because he was a transfer. They transferred him to a more difficult police department because they knew he could handle it.
Yeah. So, like, what did he do to make him stand out more amongst that? Was it because he was a transfer and came from something small and people are like, wow, he's willing to take the risk in this hellscape that we call Destroyed?
Yeah, what accolades did he gain? I would like to see that. I also wanted to actually see like an actual scene with him coming home to his family, because besides that, all we get about his family is his memories.
Yeah, which I get what they were trying to do, and in a sense that works. Mm-hmm. Because it makes you sad because you don't know what his home life was like. You just know how much he longs to have his family. So
you know, bits and pieces.
Yeah, so you really see how much he cares for his family. But I would have liked to have seen at least one where he comes home and hugs his family or something, or does something fun. Mm-hmm. Which I know, versus today, you know, in those movies, they're way too overdone.
Yeah.
The romance stories and everything, it's like, we just need to see that, oh, he has a good relationship. He or she has a good relationship with their
2020,
family.
or she.
You know, the protagonist that we have,
the main character,
has a good relationship with their family. So we don't need to spend the first, 30 minutes of the movie milking it. But, RoboCop, I feel like they could have spent at least, like maybe 5 minutes just showing a couple of clips here and there that of his family.
Yeah.
And whatnot. But no, I think between him getting shot and him being fitted with that suit, there is not really a clear definition of, was that a week afterwards? Was that a day afterwards? Or
the only clear indication we have is that they show clips of him and he's like turned on and he can see things in the lab, and at a point we do get a New Year's party. That's the only knowledge we have. So we know it's at least a year, maybe
or the remainder of what year it is.
Well, because they say his wife moved away and moved on. So I don't think he died and she was just like, I'm out of Detroit. Well, maybe she was. But you know what I mean. She didn't get married immediately after.
I mean, there's a significant amount of time. But I wish they would have explained that more. Like, what did he do? How much time passed before he actually got to move on? And I think those are like, a couple of flaws that you can that are hit or miss. Yeah.
It was a long enough time for his house to be on the market and there to be TVs of a guy giving a tour of the house.
Yeah, that is true. Which, if I remember, they totally just effed that place up. They blew it up.
Yeah, they like changed everything about his house just so they could put it back on the market, I guess.
Yeah, because I remember that it looked like it was like almost like something out of Scarface, like
a
little bit that glass interior and the.
Yeah, I think they were going for, let's avoid the fact that the previous person who lived here got his arm shot off.
Yeah, which didn't happen at his house, by the way, but, wanted to avoid the fact that, this is where the cop who transferred lost his family.
I mean, if I found out the owner of a car I bought was ran over by a train, it would freak me out.
Right.
It's
like, what is going on with that car?
Yeah. We get a lot of clips of his son looking at a guy on the TV flipping a gun and being like, "Can you do that, Dad?" I think he says it 5 times in the first movie.
Yeah. And, it's just little stuff like that, but I feel like, it wasn't exactly, like, a hindrance either.
No, not even a little bit.
It's just that, but, like, the overall pacing of the movie, I know that they try to do it now. Like if you've seen the movie Underwater, right away.
I've not seen it yet.
I liked it because it reminded me of the movie Life.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal. Which
You liked that movie?
I liked it.
Okay.
I like the idea of having an alien clone. I think a lot of those movies, like a lot of people are like, oh, they're just a clone of Alien and stuff. Because a lot of people don't go in with open minds. I like to see something beyond just a xenomorph. Yeah. It's nice to see a concept that's still the same, but also expands and unfolds in a different way with a different creature. Yeah. Which I feel like that's what Underwater did.
That's the one with Kristen Stewart, right?
Yes. Yeah. And, I think it was a lot better than people gave it credit for it. Mm-hmm. So if you guys want to see a good movie, you got to go into it with an open mind. You can't go into it judging. Yeah. Same with the Robocop franchise. As general movies, even the third one, they're enjoyable. But the third one has a sequel between not having Peter Weller reprising his role from the first two and other things. I'll try not to spoil here. Yeah. Other character developments. It was,
or lack thereof.
Yeah. Was really just a bummer and really took a lot of us out of it. And it could have been handled differently and in a much better way. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case. But if you go into them with an open mind just to enjoy them as a good watch, same with Underwater, you'll enjoy it.
Yeah. The Kristen Stewart movie, Charlie's Angels. No, I'm kidding.
When we don't talk about that either.
Yeah, no.
But, but with Underwater, like the first thing is they go right into the action. And I felt like that's what Robocop did. They tried to spend more time, so they didn't necessarily bore the audience. And as much as they could have, they made it work.
Yeah.
Even if the pacing wasn't the best, they made it work overall. They got into the action, and when you see RoboCop on his first mission, even before that, when you see him training and how advanced he is,
him at the shooting range,
yeah, and that was the best part. I feel like that was like a crucial part of what made RoboCop so good, was seeing him in that shooting range. Because, a lot of these movies, they go out and they show a field mission. It's like, oh, that's badass.
Yeah.
But a lot of these movies, you never get to see the protagonist be wowed with other people around. It's usually just the audience. With RoboCop, he goes to the shooting range, takes out his gun, and starts shooting all these targets, and has accurate aim, incredibly accurate aim. And you see all these cops, and they're all gathering around RoboCop like, oh my god, look how accurate he is. Look at his gun.
His gun's like 7 times more powerful than their gun.
Yeah, and it shoots at a kind of like almost like a semi-automatic mix.
Yeah, it shoots, I think, like, it sounds to
3
me
bullets?
like 3, 5, maybe.
It's like 3 to 5 bullets at a time, and it shoots them with tremendous force.
Yeah.
So all these cops are intrigued by how accurate RoboCop is, and how amazing his gun is, and they have like a sense of wonder. Like they're like, holy heck, what is this, and how is he, and how does this work? And you get to be right up there with the audience of being like, wow, that's actually pretty cool. So it immerses you. And you get to share the same kind of wow as the other cops do.
Yeah.
And that's like one of the best parts about RoboCop 2 is that you feel like as you watch the cops that are around RoboCop, every time he does something cool, there's other people usually around to kind of see it too, and they're all like, wow. Even like some of the bad guys are like,
yeah,
that's terrifying, but holy crap, how is he doing that,
That first robbery he stops in the first movie with the guy with the machine gun who's just shooting at him, and every time he shoots at him, he goes, F me, because nothing is happening. And then he just walks up to him, grabs the gun, just bends it. Yeah,
which is like a whole Superman thing, and
yeah.
That's the other cool part. I've always loved those scenes in movies and TV shows. Like, the best part is, like, seeing RoboCop or Superman, and the bullets just reflect off of them.
Yeah.
Not only does it make for visual satisfaction, but it's also just cool because you also put yourself in that headspace and would be like, how amazed and afraid would you be if the thing that you were trying to shoot just kept reflecting bullets and just didn't stop? Just kept walking at a steady motion like...
Or what would you do if that's how you reacted to bullets? I can say it confidently. I'd probably do more crime.
Yeah, pretty awesome. And I think, like... a little off topic here is the first season of Luke Cage, or no, the second season, where Luke Cage is battling some bad guys, and they go to shoot him, and he goes, and Luke Cage goes, "Really, man?" And he's like, and the bad guy literally goes, "Well, you know we have to try," and Luke Cage goes, "All right."
Fine,
Then puts his arms out. They start shooting at him, and then he kicks their butts. But those scenes make for such good comedic and like visual, and they make you feel that way too.
Okay, well, like going to like the question you asked earlier, put yourself in those people's shoes. Like they're shooting at this person and they're not dying. How hopeless do you feel? Like I'm never gonna get rid of this person that's gonna kill me.
Yeah, and I should preface, when I said I would do more crime, I meant I would do crime. I don't do crime. For a second I was like, don't say this, but it happened. Yeah, because, as a person, a gun against another person is pretty effective. But if it has no effect and that's kind of your ace in the hole, you're like, well, I guess I died today.
Yeah, and those scenes, like, and every movie, what makes every movie in those scenes good, and that goes for both the hero, the protagonist, and the antagonist, is guns are everything.
Yeah.
Because that's modern day. We don't get lasers and stuff, or they're not common. You don't see a police officer in real life take out, like, a laser gun. We all, we have firearms, we have pistols and stuff like that. So for us, that's the next powerful thing, or a rocket launcher. Anything that has a lot of power and kickback is like, those are the things that you realize right away.
Yeah.
So that's what makes those scenes also as amazing as they are terrifying.
It's one of my favorite scenes in the second Robocop is when it goes those guys who are like robbing they're robbing the like gun store or whatever.
Oh,
and the guy picks up the missile launcher and then he goes, "Oh," and you see him off screen. He goes, "Oh," and he puts down the totally realistic missile launcher and picks up the definitely fake looking missile launcher.
Just starts shooting at him.
Yeah.
Which that movie had a lot of flaws. The second one had a lot of flaws, but was overall enjoyable.
Yeah.
But one of those best things too is that in the beginning of the second film, they blow up a cop car.
Yeah.
And they shoot it twice.
Yes. Well, and the reason they're robbing the place is they're not expecting any cops to show up because the police are on strike.
Which, in this dystopian version of Detroit, is the worst thing to happen. So,
yeah.
It's like if you've seen the show Gotham, or like you just know Gotham City, that's what it's like. They just run rampant everywhere. Crime is at an all-time high.
They emphasize how bad it is by showcasing a homeless woman pushing a cart of cans, and as she's in the middle of the street, somebody hits the cart and just keeps driving. Then somebody comes by to supposedly help her, takes her purse. He's walking down the street counting his cash. 2 hookers attack him and take the cash. So
it's bad when hookers start attacking people.
When muggers can't even get money, it's an issue. No, it's not. But still.
But then it's bad. But, that beginning, though, is like, oof. And then when you get to that gun part, the cool thing too with the bullet subject is that you see RoboCop pull up in his car. They shoot the car twice, and then you see RoboCop get out of his car
after it's exploded and it's on fire, and he just
flipped over.
Out. Yeah.
So he just walks out, and it's done a full 360. He gets out, walks out without a scratch, and just starts walking towards them.
Yeah.
And so with those scenes, like I was saying earlier, like, could you imagine just shooting a rocket launcher at like a car or something, try and blow up your enemy, and all of a sudden they just walk out. And they're just like, you ain't got nothing on me.
I feel comfortable with saying this. I would soil myself. I feel comfortable with saying
I think anybody would take a leak in their pants or crap their pants. Because, I mean, that'd be horrifying.
Yeah.
But for us as the audience, we're like, oh, that's awesome.
Looks cool.
Change pace to something like The Thing. When you shoot that. You get a totally different sense. And it's interesting how films do that.
Yeah.
Like how you could take one second to another. Because, you could do something like The Thing where you're successful and shooting the beast. And you're like, oh yeah, that's awesome. And then all of a sudden they go to shoot a rocket launcher at it, and then that has no effect because the creature's evolved or something like that. And instantly you get a sense of dread too. because you're
Yeah.
like, you know, that's horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we could go into one other topic too, is horror.
Yeah. Because Robocop is a little horror-esque as far as, like, blood goes and terrifying imagery.
Yeah, there are some quite, especially Robocane.
Yeah.
Robocane is definitely like nightmare fuel, right down to his growling features.
Yes. I think most nightmare fuel for me for Robocop 2 is when they're showcasing the early prototypes and the one guy takes off his helmet and it's just a skull screaming and he's like, yeah! That is so funny but haunting at the same time.
Which,
it's like meeting the mascot for McDonald's. Like,
yeah, and that's another thing about horror is as somebody who's watched a lot of horror films, and I think all three of us have.
Yeah, that's fair to say. Yeah, horror TV shows too.
Yeah, and a lot of them are hard to scare, especially me, because a lot of them are just jump scares.
Yeah.
But the time that I feel the most scared is something like Paranormal Activity or Sinister.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I can't watch those movies alone, a lot of people say, well, that's stupid that you can watch it alone or something like that and you're terrified of Paranormal Activity. And the thing is, because those are so much more realistic.
Yeah.
They don't rely on music and jump scares. They,
Yeah.
they create an atmosphere and a sense of emptiness.
Yeah.
Like, the other day, I was listening to the theme of The Thing in the car.
She can attest to this.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Hannah was with me, and the thing about The Thing that I never noticed about the theme before is that when you're listening to it, even in the car, and my car is a little bit noisy because it's an older car, is that soundtrack, even not being fully up, like that whole theme sucked the whole sounds from outside,
Yeah.
out of it.
Yeah.
It just made this bright, beautiful day all of a sudden just eerie and kind of, just like you said.
Well, that's the thing, because your brain associates that theme with that movie. So you are feeling what you felt while watching that movie while you're listening to the soundtrack.
And the thing with that music, too, that a lot of horror movies don't have is that music is absent.
Yeah.
It's primarily just a heartbeat
Mm-hmm.
and nothing else, with a little bit of a backtone as it progresses.
Yeah.
So it really sucks any sort of ambient noise out of existence at all. And that's the most horrifying things about those movies is every horror film may not be scary when you see it in the theater, but the reason that, like I always get scared when I come home is like thinking, what if?
Yeah.
Like that's what makes Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise so scary. Or even Tim Curry. Mm-hmm. Like, one of the things that still terrifies me about that miniseries is in the very beginning, so the spoilers for the miniseries.
I was going to say it. Spoilers for anything on any screen ever.
Yeah.
It's just easier that
we'll
way.
just put a disclosure for everything that we say here will potentially be a spoiler.
Because we don't even think about it at this point. It's just subconscious.
And we are doing a film podcast, so.
Yes.
But
now we're talking about a miniseries.
Right.
Yeah, right. But that first part of that the original It miniseries movie is that when Pennywise says hi to that little girl on the tricycle,
Yeah.
and you see the blinds, it cuts to the blinds, and then all of a sudden you see him just staring at that girl. Like, that is the most mortifying thing. Even when I pause on that screen, it terrifies me because it always makes me think, if I open my blinds, is there going to be somebody... Because my fence in my house has fallen down just from being old and it's rotted. So my thing is, am I ever going to see somebody just standing in my neighbor's yard staring at me with that intense, anger, hunger, or whatever, whatnot you want to call Pennywise in that scene? And that's scary to think about, because it's like, what, you would open your blinds expecting to see something, and then you just see somebody just staring at you.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more horrifying than that. And, another thing with the horror genre, too, is when you see humans.
Yeah.
Thrillers. And I think thrillers are very underrated.
Yes.
There's nothing scarier than thinking about humans and what humans can do to people in those movies. And that's why I always found those movies terrifying.
Yeah.
Because when a person stares at you, it can mean many things. Even as a blank stare. You have no idea what they're solely thinking about. They could be thinking about, wow, that person has nice clothing. wow, those person, they can pull off a style real good. That person may be cute or handsome or whatever. Or they could be thinking, wow, that would be a perfect next victim.
Yeah.
Which is why, when I walk around in public, that's like the creepiest thing for me. Minus those movies is when I feel like somebody's staring at me, even though they may not be, they might be looking in my general direction. I think a lot of people can vouch for that. But that's like one of the scariest things because you don't know what a person is thinking. We as humans don't necessarily know what we're thinking. And that's the same thing with monsters.
Speaking of people staring. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. Just looking at me like... No, yeah, people can be terrifying. I don't think we got to talk about it much because there wasn't that long of a wait between, but we were both, I would say, generally terrified from Parasite when we saw that in theaters.
Yeah, Parasite is a perfect example. What humans can be capable of.
Yeah, great movie. We're not going to spoil it because
you need to watch Parasite for yourself. You want to do that, you want to get a spoiler, you do that in your own time. Yeah. We won't talk about it here.
Yeah, we'll only talk about it in the context of we might do a review on it for sure.
But we can say that Parasite really does show human nature from every aspect,
multiple perspectives, yeah,
and not just one. And that's what makes humans so much interesting. Like, when you get something like Pennywise, you know what their motives are. They're clearly stated, even if you have no idea what that source content is of anything, even the thing. You know that they're a killer.
Right.
And you know that's what the movie's about. Now, what their motives may be unclear.
Yeah.
But you know that they're there to be there. With a human, you don't quite know what their motives are. And because humans we're such complex... creatures, you could never tell what one person's thinking because we have the capability to mask. We can put many masks over our face, and potentially do many different things and have many different faces for many different reasons. Something like I don't know if any of you have seen The Intruder with Dennis Quaid.
I don't think I have. Oh, is that African-American couple buys a new house from a guy who sticks around? Yeah. Okay, I haven't seen it, but good? Bad?
It's
okay.
Good.
Okay.
It's good. And even something like Ma is actually pretty good.
Oh, I have seen Ma.
and a lot of people don't like those movies, but I think what a lot of people don't do, too, is not a lot of people go into these movies with open minds. They just expect to be scared.
No.
And you can't do that with horror films. You need to be willing to go out and have an open mind and really, really think about that and put yourself in those shoes and think about the position that you're in.
Yeah. Well, what I liked about Ma was it really showed that, like, not every actor can just do one thing. Because, like, Octavia Spencer, she's known for just, like... She's in a lot of movies, like, she's in The Help, and she's hilarious in that, and she's... I've never seen her do horror, and I'm surprised at how well it worked.
Yeah. And that's the thing with actors. Like, a lot of these... And that's what makes these human thrillers so perfect.
Yeah.
Is because, like, I don't think anybody... Like, people who knew Joaquin Phoenix knew he could do a strong performance.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody expected him to do as well with Joker.
No, not at all.
And that was something with, like, Heath Ledger. Nobody expected Heath Ledger to do half as good of a job, or even be one of the most... Right up there with Joaquin Phoenix now, to be one of the best takes on Joker.
Yeah.
But what makes Heath Ledger so terrifying, and I know that people are terrified of him on set because he was in character a lot of the time, is that's the most terrifying part, because nobody would think that Heath Ledger could be that much of an embodiment of the Joker. And I think that's what freaked people out the most, because it's like, how do you not get lost in that?
People surprising you. Yeah.
Yes, people can do so many surprising things that you be like, how?
Yeah. Like, I was shocked at one of the scariest characters in Robocop. I'm gonna bring it back. Was Clarence, who I used to know just as the dad from That 70s Show.
Right.
Yeah. Glasses,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Because I was just trying to bring it back a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. With Robocop, I wanted to talk about the supporting cast for a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
A lot of good supporting characters.
Nancy Allen is...
Is that Lewis? Yeah. She's probably one of the better parts because that's how we get our human perspective to RoboCop, is seeing it as an outsider of a person who knew who he was before that, and seeing her perspective on the whole situation.
And she really keeps Alex Murphy grounded to the fact that he is still human. He's just in a metal casing.
Yeah, she's his reminder. Yeah.
Yeah, so and that's why she plays such a crucial role. So I think by the end of 3, when there are some unfortunities, that really puts...
One of my citing arguments for why 3 is in general a bad movie. They killed Lewis within, what was it, 10, 20, 30
half
minutes?
hour.
Yeah, half hour? Okay.
And there's still like that movie, I believe, is a duration of like an hour and 30 minutes, I think.
Yeah. While you look that up, I'll say, I don't understand why her death needed to happen. Because it didn't, okay? Because I feel like what they were trying to do is kill her to make us care about RoboCop. We already cared. You didn't need to kill her.
Exactly. and it's an hour and 45-minute movie, and that really changed.
It's an hour and 44 minutes too long.
Yeah, right. And right down to Rotten Tomatoes kind of says it all. and we don't want to diss on it. We still want you guys to go see it. Definitely go see it and formulate your own opinion. Yeah. Don't let that, because too many people let the opinion and the overall, affect their movie experience. Go into it with an open mind.
Yeah.
And go in and enjoy it, because at the end of the day,
it's a popcorn movie.
It's a great movie just to binge. The Robocop series, even some of their Prime Directive like feature length miniseries episodes,
yeah,
they're fun to binge, but they're definitely no Peter Weller Robocop.
No,
we all love
nothing in the franchise I think holds a candle to the original.
Yeah,
and I felt like with 3, the pitch meeting must have been, guys, we don't need to have a returning lead or our script be good because we have ninja robots.
Yes. and that was the biggest part too, is like the whole, Rotten Tomatoes says it all. This asinine sequel should be placed under arrest, which is one of the more accurate things that Rotten Tomatoes has ever done.
Can we have a show where we just read Rotten Tomato critics scores, because those are a delight in and of themselves.
Those are. And Rip Torn was the CEO. But driving it back.
Oh, from Men in Black.
Yeah,
I thought I recognized him.
And
Rest in peace.
That. Yes. But also bringing it back to with Nancy Allen and her character Anne dying in that movie. The problem with killing her off so early too was the fact that they did not have Peter Weller.
Yeah,
you can't kill off a good supporting role that's almost, if not as equal to the protagonist.
Yeah,
with a totally different actor, and that's never to discredit Robert John Burke. He still played a good RoboCop, in my opinion.
He was fine.
He
got the movements right.
He got the movement right and the facial expressions when they had the mask off.
Yeah.
So that's not to diss him in any way. He did play good RoboCop, but.
Yeah. I just don't think you should kill one of the only actors who returned for the movie.
Yeah, because it takes away, and in a sense, when you recast like that, you're basically starting over.
Yeah,
because you have a fresh face, and something like to go off, but also bring it back afterwards is like the movie Solo. Aiden Enrich. Actually, in my opinion, I'm not much of a fan of the Disney movies at all, which we'll save for a whole nother episode. But Aiden Enrich did a great young Han Solo. But the problem...
Is that how his name is pronounced?
Aldrin Enrich? Or...
That was Eckhart something. Or his last name was that.
I think it's... Aldrin Enrich. I can't...
Pronunciation look up. Yeah.
Enrich. Something like that. But,
I'll know if I see it.
Yeah, it's
a very German spelling.
Alden Enreich? That might be right.
That's how you say it in German, so I would assume that's the pronunciation.
Yeah. But
the guy who played Han Solo.
Yeah. And you know he's a good young Han Solo. The only problem that I mainly had with him as Han Solo is because this is a 10-year. It's only like 10 years before A New Hope. And that's not enough time to have a drastic facial change.
No, he can't go from looking like a Backstreet Boy to looking like Harrison Ford.
Yeah, and that's a lot of problems when you take these movies. So in a sense, you may love that character, but Solo had a very different feel because it was a different actor, and because we've already seen that when Harrison played Han, he was already fairly young. He was only in his 30s.
Really?
But he looked like he was in his 20s.
Yeah, he really like
his early 20s.
The dude stayed handsome for a while.
Yeah. And you know, and one of the things that Harrison Ford did age pretty well because he still looks pretty much the same as he did when he was young. A couple more wrinkles and whatnot.
That earring helps. One piercing.
Right. And you know, so with RoboCop 3, you know, that was the biggest part for me is I hate seeing recasts for iconic characters because you can only do that under certain circumstances. Like the Marvel Cinematic Universe did it with Edward Norton, and I think Mark Ruffalo was a much better choice.
Oh, that's who you're talking about. Okay. For a second, I thought you were talking about the other recast they did, which was War Machine. And I was like, Edward Norton did not play War Machine.
No.
That was Don Cheadle.
Cheadle from... why can't I remember his name? Because he's a good actor, too.
Don Cheadle is the newer one.
Don Cheadle is the one who plays the current War Machine.
He was in Ocean's 11, 12, and 13. He was in those movies.
Howard Terrence?
Yeah, Terrence Howard.
Terrence Howard, that's
the guy from Empire.
Yeah, and he's a good actor too. I don't know quite why they replaced him. I know that the Disney kind of screwed him over with his contract.
I think
Don Cheadle was a better choice.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't necessarily better, but he fit the bill.
Yeah.
A little bit more.
I feel like it. Yeah. I feel like he definitely seemed like he cared more about the role.
Yeah, I feel like he was just more comfortable. Facial wise, and just like who he is. Just visually, he was more comfortable.
Yeah, yeah.
Where Terrence Howard felt more like if it was like a solo type, if they just done Iron Man by himself. Maybe,
yeah.
And did like an episodic standard trilogy or whatnot. But you know, we all love Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk.
He's great.
Great. I personally don't see Edward Norton being a team player. That's not to discredit him in any way.
He's a great actor.
He is.
Him and Birdman, he's great.
I would never see him, though. I don't think I could see him working in something like the MCU and being like a team player.
Well, something I think Edward Norton is quoted as saying one of the reasons he quit was he didn't like being associated with something that's inherently negative, which you can look at the Hulk in a certain perspective of that, but I don't think that's the character as a whole. No,
and Hulk is loved too, and by these later MCU movies, he's loved.
Yeah,
I mean, despite some people being scared of him, you see it all over the Avengers that people absolutely love Hulk. Like the little kids at the end of Avengers, freaking out over with their Hulk action figures and balloons and stuff, or like Thor Ragnarok, where they're parading through the streets like Hulk.
Yeah, and they're getting pictures with him in Endgame, and he's, wearing huge sweaters, which, my God, the thread count on that must be
expensive clothing.
Gotta cost $1,000 minimum for that Hulk sweater.
Right. But, it's stuff like that were good recastings, but they did it very early on.
Yeah. They didn't, it wasn't a sudden thing. We were able to ease into it and adjust our brains a little bit.
With the main character, you can't really change that. But with supporting roles, or even some main characters, depending on the circumstances, like with Edward Norton, a shift change can be good.
Yeah.
And in terms of recasting, the biggest thing I think too with people is that it's that facial change.
Yeah.
And the structure build of those actors that really throw people through a loop. But, those second movies are kind of a concreting moment. It's when the concrete really dries. And who has ever been in those previous movies, you want to see reprise those roles because automatically they've already become a cult and a major part of that classic of that particular franchise.
100%. That's why I was weirdly, when I saw the third one, I was weirdly happy to see that the chief was still the same guy, the police chief.
Yeah.
He's still the same guy. One of the main suit guy, who we'll talk in a second, he has my favorite moment in the first Robocop movie. The guy with the glasses.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
He's still there. Yeah. I'm just happy to see familiar faces. What can I say? Yeah. But my favorite scene in the first Robocop movie is the end, when
he says
Dick Jones, when he gets shot out the window, and the
God,
dude,
those long arms though.
the dude says nothing. His exact direction is he stands up smiling, and when the guy flies out the window, he looks at Robocop and goes, thumbs up. That's it. And it is one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
And it's good moments like that just keep it so good. I mean, yeah, and Peter Weller, he just, it'd be like if you did. I know that Arnold Schwarzenegger is overused for Terminator, but that's the second thing I like to associate with RoboCop.
Because it's similar. It's very similar.
Yeah. And
even movement-wise, Terminator and RoboCop.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger was like, how do I play a robot? And he did it so well.
He really did.
Void of emotion. And a lot of people are like, well, it's easy to play a robot. And it's like, really? It's not.
Because emotion is what people base their choices on 98% of the time.
When they're accepting a role or being cast in one, yeah. So, I mean, when you see that, that's like one of the major things that you look for in a character is what's their personality, and that's how you figure them out. With Terminator, you have to be void of all that. When with RoboCop, you kind of have to be void of all that too for a majority of the time. And Peter Weller did that very well, like Arnold Schwarzenegger did with playing T-800. Was really changing that. So I mean, when I saw that they replaced Peter Weller, that he didn't come back, that's kind of what started to kill RoboCop 3 for me a little bit. Is that they got a fresh face, and it felt like I was trying to. Like I missed something.
Yeah.
Because usually when they get a new cast too, it's usually because they with RoboCop that could be anything. Maybe he got.
I hope that didn't get picked up on the mic.
With RoboCop, it feels like he could have. Went through some sort of facial reconstruction surgery, or
they could have written it off as that.
Yeah, many other things, and it's really thinking so far out there.
Yeah,
but at the same time, you're also thinking about those types of things because it's reason. You've had the same person playing the character for 2 movies. And then they kind of just change it. So it'd kind of be like, like I said, with Arnold Schwarzenegger, if they changed him all of a sudden for 3.
Yeah.
Or like in Salvation, if they decided to go with a totally different person in that T-800 scene in Terminator Salvation.
Well, Arnold technically is not... his face is credited. The actor is not in the movie. Arnold that is full CGI, which that was a good job.
Yeah. And I knew that as well when I first saw it. Like, you can tell it's CGI, but it's so well done.
Yeah.
And it's one of those few things, like Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One.
Oh, God. That is why Rogue One is one of my favorites. That is a reason up there, for sure.
If you watch it on 4K, you can tell it's fake. But when you watch it in a standard...
If you really look.
Yeah. But I mean, like, in that standard version... I guess even in IMAX... Mm-hmm. They did a really good job with the facial. They got the person who fit the facial structure.
Yeah.
And then the little touch-ups that they did, even with the little makeup before the CGI, was so well done that you're like, that looks exactly like Peter Cushing.
Peter Cushing? Cushing? The dude. Yeah, it looks just like him.
I think it's Cushing, but I could be wrong. But yeah, it's stuff like that where, like, even if they would have... And I mean, I know, like, with RoboCop and a lot of those older movies, and even now, it's expensive. Like, the Gemini Man.
Oh, God. Don't,
See, I thought the concept was there, so I enjoyed it because it was Will Smith.
Yeah, that was my mindset going into it.
But it was very clear that they ran out of money.
Yeah.
And that's what really killed that movie, I think, for a lot of people. Is because by the end of that film, you could tell... by the face of his younger self, that they ran out of money.
Well, my mindset with that movie was, oh, Will Smith is such a good actor. Having him play the two main characters is going to be incredible. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, to be honest.
And it's kind of, and in all fairness, it's kind of hard to take such a good actor and have him play himself.
Yeah, because that's difficult to act against.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and there's no base structure. Like, how do you play a younger version of yourself? Because I can only imagine that Will was thinking the whole time, what was I like when I was that age doing acting? I was doing Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Like, how the hell am I supposed to take this?
I was in West Philadelphia, born and raised.
You know, how do I go from this small, fun, lighthearted comedy to all of a sudden
I'm an assassin.
Yeah, to the roles that I've done into my adult years.
It's similar with like the difficulty that could come with playing a robot, because a lot of parts about acting is how your face looks during things that are occurring. And getting directed to have your face not change at all can be very difficult. Yeah, because you're a human being. You react to things.
And from the small acting experience that I've done too, a lot of things too when I try to practice before I do acting is looking at my face. I like to do that in the mirror because a lot of the time I'm like, but is that convincing? Is that really what a person would look like? Because the whole time when you're thinking about your face, like for me, people tell me to smile in the picture. I feel like I'm smiling, but I'm not smiling at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My mouth is like maybe a little bit of a smirk or a scowl, which is not what I intend, but that's what it looks like. Yeah. So imagining to do like a robot like Peter Weller had to do, especially with the makeup that makes his face look like it's just...
That is astounding to me, because it actually looks like his face is just cut and paste. But how did they do that? Like, I don't even know.
I was watching it behind the scenes. I can't remember, but when you do watch Robocop, when you see under his mask, like what's left of him besides his brain and stuff is his face, and it literally looks kind of like that Saw 5 teaser poster where they got all the chains holding that face in place. Yeah, it's gross, but it's kind of like if you've seen the DC where the Joker cuts his face off. It's kind of like that.
I have those comics, yeah.
Yeah, where he just staples his face basically onto his head.
To prove a point.
Yes. Which we'll go into in another episode.
Yeah.
But definitely that's what it looks like with RoboCop. It literally looks like they put his face back on, stapled it, and chained it back into place.
And it's impressive how convincing it looks.
Yes.
The only thing that kind of takes it away is when you look at the throat box thing and you can see his Adam's apple moving a little bit, but not much. That's the only thing that takes it away from it.
But the rest of it, like at face value, when you see an image, is like, holy crap. Maybe we'll also do like a little slideshow so I can put that in here too, and then you guys can see it. But it is so convincing, right down to when his mouth is moving.
I'm so sorry. My phone is out, which it shouldn't be, but I just got a text saying, "When you coming home?" from my mom. And it made me realize we've been here for hours.
Oh, this is true.
True.
But definitely. Well, I think we can wrap on this episode.
How long have we been?
We've been like an hour and 3 minutes now.
Really? It goes by that fast.
It does.
Wow.
But yeah, definitely overall with RoboCop, give it a good view. The movies are worth it. They have definitely worth the first two. Go into those with open minds. The remake is pretty decent as well. Not my all-time favorite because it is PG-13. Yeah. But with the rating that they work with, they do a really good job. The CGI is pretty good in there. The new suit design that they give RoboCop is...
It's pretty slick.
It's pretty badass. The black
and red,
and the kind of gives you that Cyclops vibe.
Yeah,
from his visor, like the original.
I feel like the things I'll remember for a long time from the remake is the shots where it's actually what's left of him, and you realize all that is left is a hand and his lungs and his face
and his brain.
Yeah. And then the other thing I'll remember is how cool Ed 209 looked in that. Oh my gosh!
Yes.
looked like just an unmanned walker.
And not to mention, too, Gary Oldman, he plays it.
Yeah,
and Samuel L.
Jackson
is in there, too. So,
you didn't see my pupils. Yeah.
So if you want a good watch Gary Oldman and Samuel L. Jackson, there's that, too.
You want a fun popcorn movie that,
Yeah. And then... I think the Prime Directive movies, too.
Are those movies? I thought that was a miniseries.
It was a miniseries. They were feature-length, so I kind of consider them movies. Because... And I like those. I primarily like the doppelganger stuff, so I like that one.
That's always fun.
Doppelganger, yeah.
That's always fun. Have we introduced you, a person who's never seen any of the RoboCop movies, to check them out?
Yeah, actually listening to this.
There we go.
I haven't heard.
We did our job, man.
So they're definitely worth a view. So definitely check out RoboCop 1, 2, and 3. Then there's the Prime Directive series, which is Dark Justice, Meltdown, Resurrection, and Crash and Burn. You have to watch those in order, I believe, to get them because they are still a miniseries. I think it is Meltdown, or I think it's Meltdown that has. RoboCop go up against another RoboCop doppelganger, and they look exactly the same. One's just darker.
It's not a RoboCop 2 situation.
It's not like the RoboCop 2, but it's fun to watch because I've always loved doppelgangers. And then there is RoboCop the series, which I don't even know where you can watch those.
The only clip I've seen of Robocop the series is he's holding up a guy who has really bad prosthetic makeup, and the guy says, "Where's your sense of humor?" And Robocop goes, "Right here," and punches him in the face. And I'm like, okay, this looks like it'd be a treasure in a sense of like making fun of something.
That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, it's fun to sit and trash things. We should definitely just do a podcast on a really bad movie.
We should, and I would love to trash those movies. Still giving them a chance, but there are some movies like, what is it, Street Trash, that are kind of unforgivable, but they're so bad that they're...
Night of the Lepus. Do you know what that is?
I have never heard of that.
So it's from the 70s, right? Mid-70s, I'd say. Night of the Lepus. Anyways... some type of radiation thing happens, and bunnies get to be like 20 times their normal size. Something like that.
Yeah, and they're killer animals.
Yeah, so there's people like shooting at them with guns, and then it cuts to stock footage of bunnies jumping around, but it's at an angle so they look giant, and then it cuts back to the person and they're on the ground dying. It's
like if any of you have seen Jaws 3 where they mix that shark footage without any sort of taste.
Yeah.
Unlike the first one where they literally just throw like this weird shark and then you see how fake the actual shark is and you're like,
we have to talk about the Jaws franchise at some point, because I have a lot of things to say about Jaws 4 in terms of demand and supply.
Like, just to give you guys a taste, who the hell and how is the audience high when somebody said, "Ooh, when we impale a shark, it should explode on home video"?
Yes, and
unlike the original ending where they impale it and it's awesome.
And when we electrocute a shark, it should roar like a lion. Sharks don't have lungs. It can't do that.
Yeah. Oh my god, those movies are...
My favorite comment about that movie, because who is it who's in it? He's also plays Alfred in the Christopher Nolan Batman.
Yeah, Michael Caine.
Michael Caine. They asked Michael Caine if he's ever seen the final cut of Jaws 4. Have you heard his response to this?
He's only seen the house that they bought, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, he saw the house it bought me. Oh my gosh.
And there's nothing else from him because he just didn't see the movie because it got such poor reception. Well, there's also that guy, just to give you another little taste, there also is that priest who's making the play and he's like, "Where the hell are the wise men?" Jesus.
Well, there's like...
And he's cursing at all the little kids and stuff trying to get ready.
There's like, Michael Caine gets pulled out of the water and he's like soaking wet, but they were filming out there for so long that there are shots where his clothes are completely dry.
Yes. And then there's also that scene in the plane where he's like, "Damn passengers, you're all the same. Complain. Shark pops up. Oh shit!" Runs back in the plane. The shark drags it down underwater. Oh God, I love that scene. I could watch that scene forever. That was so great.
It's a treasure. It's like the Mortal Kombat movies.
But it was still better than Jaws 3.
Jaws 4 was better than Jaws 3?
I like The Revenge more than Jaws 3.
Oh, we're gonna have to have a talk.
Because 3 was bad.
3 had Dennis Quaid. 3 had Dennis Quaid.
That was it, though. You can't say more than that movie. At least you could say that Jaws the Revenge made you laugh a little bit just because... But they did have a kick-ass opening theme.
Yeah. Well, and I've heard... Because Jaws 3, its main, push to it is the fact that it's in 3D. It was marketed as Jaws 3-D.
Which is... Oh, God.
And if you watch it in 3D, it's apparently acceptable as a film.
I've seen it with the 3D... With the lame 3D glasses, and it's acceptable, but... Okay. Oh my God, that fish head for 15 seconds trying to suck people in, where the shark just crunches the fish and the fish head just goes blop, blop, blop for literally 15 seconds at the screen. Yeah. And you see all the muscle and everything. And the fish head doesn't even look real at this point.
It reminded me a lot of, God, it's the latest Alien movie, Covenant. Alien Covenant. Oh, they show that shot of a rotating head in water about 5 times.
Oh God, yeah, and Jaws the Revenge, Jaws 3D was nothing but those. The only good thing was that shark death. I can only say because that was too short.
Yeah,
but the blobbing fish head and the arm, flying towards the screen with nothing but severed bone.
Yeah, is 2 severed bones.
Which was like, how did that happen?
Yeah, it made me not want to go to SeaWorld. Just because I'm like, this can happen? No.
Everybody's sitting in the little squirting bumper boats, and all of a sudden the shark just comes up and rips Dennis Quaid's girlfriend apart, or Sean's, and cuts her leg. I was like, oh, why?
I said why a lot during both 3 and 4.
And I have to say this before we end this, who was in it? It was Dennis Quaid, Bess Armstrong, Louis Gazette Jr. was in it as Kelvin Bouchard.
Oh.
And I don't remember.
Is that the British guy who's like, I'll hump the shark?
No, that was either Jack Tate by P.H. Morady?
Yeah. Okay.
Or Philip Fitzroyce, who got swallowed by the shark and...
Fitzroyce, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, he gets swallowed by the shark and somehow he just starts going down and his mask goes on. He's like,
yeah, and you can see him looking out the thing for 5 minutes too long.
Yeah, and so if you're an ASMR fan and you love hearing mouth sound effects, it literally sounds like
Jaws 3. Folks.
Somebody swallowed a mic and just goes like a big fat guy chewing food or something.
I feel like that is the perfect place to end this podcast on. That is the perfect note to end this Robo podcast on.
But yes, definitely in the end, definitely check out the Robocop movies. They're definitely worth a view, even if you're not the biggest fan. Formulate your own opinion and then tell us what you guys think if you saw it or if we helped you make up your mind to go see it. So
and let us know what else you'd like to hear us talk about with a mix of tangents.
Yes, and then hopefully soon too we'll probably do a comedy series where we'll spend a majority of the time ripping these movies apart.
What am I? Hold on. We'll do the only safe thing. Okay, so the show. Those of you don't know, there was a spider about 2 centimeters away from my elbow.
It went under your elbow at one point.
I need to burn everything. The house must die. So,
with that note, check out the Robocops. Let us know what you think, and the rest of you have a great night.
Yes,
and
we would like to. I just want to say real quick. I hope everyone is doing okay with everything that's happening right now. If it's a few years from now, this is right in the middle of the whole COVID-19 coronavirus is happening right now. So I hope everyone's safe. I hope everyone's happy, and I hope we were able to take your mind off of craziness for about an hour.
Yeah, and we'll continue to do that for you guys because what better thing is it to do than to sit at home and listen to a bunch of crazy people talk about movies? So
because movies are escapism, and we are talking about escapism in a form of escapism.
And we love our movies.
We really do. We really do. Where can people follow you?
You can follow me, guys, at IceSuperN. That's for Instagram and Twitter. I primarily use my Instagram. So Ice Super N, Ice Super and the letter N, lowercase, all one word. And then we'll eventually have a YouTube channel up soon, as well as a Twitter and Instagram that you can follow us at Nerd Hour. Nerds Hour. That's,
Film Nerds Hour, yeah.
Yeah, this will be our official podcast, and then our channel will be called Nerds Hour, and we'll soon branch out and do a whole bunch of other stuff to bring to you guys. So hopefully you guys will enjoy that, and hopefully you guys will be able to find us on there. We'll put a little link down in the description as well, so you guys can be redirected right to my main page and then our official page.
Yeah.
So.
And that was Noah Sweeto. You can find me. I said your name right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
First time.
You looked at me like I didn't.
No.
My name is Nathaniel Shoemaker. You can find me on Twitter at Nate David Allen S. That is NATEDAVIDALLENS. The Nate in the N in Nate is capitalized. The D in David is capitalized. The A in Allen is capitalized, and the S is capitalized. I'm not going to get any more followers. You can find me there. You can also find me at Nathaniel Shoemaker on Stardust. I do a lot of 30-second movie and TV show reviews. Most recently and notably, I watched all of Game of Thrones in 3 weeks. So,
oh shit.
Yeah, yeah. So I have a little bit of time to squander with my reviewing such things. Where can people find you?
Do you even want to be found?
Anywhere.
I honestly have so many usernames for so many different platforms.
Okay.
You can find me anywhere, just Hannah Henricks, and see what pops up.
Right.
So yeah, you guys let us know what you want us to hear in the future, and soon see, because we'll be doing some video podcasts too. So you let us know what you want to hear and see, and we'll bring it to you.
Yeah.
With that, you all stay safe and stay healthy, and you have a great night. And we will talk to you guys in the next podcast.
Yes. Drink plenty of fluids.
See you later.